Today, again, a beautiful principle he's going to share with us. Kuumba, that's how we greet one another. Habari, Gani. And we respond with Kuumba, which means creativity. And here once again with us, he's been with us all week and every year now for several years. He's the professor and chair of Africana Studies, California State University, Long Beach, executive director of the African American Cultural Center, US. And of course, he is the creator of Kwanzaa and Nguzo, Saba, the author of the definitive work, Kwanzaa, Celebration of Family, Community, and Culture, and also the author of Introduction to Black Studies, which is now in its 4th edition. Let me also mention to learn more about the symbols and the principles and the ceremony, we invite you to go to officialkwanzaawebsite.org. It's right there for you, wherever you may be. And we've mentioned some of his other books in our last day, yesterday. And we want to remind you that you can find some of his works, all of his works, at sankoripress.com. And also, you can stop by maulana.karenga.org to find out more about the Husia and the Odu Ifa, the other works he's written, Kawaida, Ma'at, all of these principles that serve us throughout all the days of the year and all the days of our lives. Habari, Gani. Once again, Dr. Maulana Karenga.
Kuumba, Mr. Miller. Thanks so much again for this dialogue and conversation during this important week of Kwanzaa. And today we're on the 6th principle, Kuumba, creativity. And the text tells us that this means and calls on us to do always as much as we can in the way we can in order to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited. So the principle and practice of Kuumba commits us to work and struggle for a new world and a new us. A new world and a new us that is rooted in the ancient African ethical imperative of what we call Suruj Ta. And Suruj Ta is an ancient Egyptian word that means a moral imperative to constantly repair, renew, and remake the world, making it more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited. And we must repair, renew, and remake the world in the process and practice of repairing, renewing, and remaking ourselves. Right? This is the whole idea we advanced in the 60s and continue to advance for the Cultural Revolution. Overturning ourselves, lifting ourselves out of the culture incarceration, the conceptual incarceration, the psychological imprisonment in which the dominant society placed us, to free ourselves so we can be ourselves. And if we be ourselves, we can be the most beautiful we can imagine. We say the fundamental obligation of a people is to be itself and free itself. Because unless you be yourself, we can't free yourself. But we know that until we fully free ourselves, we can't fully be ourselves. So the struggle goes on. As we remake the world, we must remake ourselves. And this Kuumba principle teaches and urges us in our relationships with each other, in our relationship with others, in our relationship with the earth. It says this: raise up what is in ruins, repair what is damaged, rejoin what is separated, replenish what is depleted, to set right what is wrong, to strengthen what is weakened, and to make flourish that which is fragile and undeveloped. It's a beautiful concept, repairing, renewing, and remaking the world in the process and practice of repairing, renewing, and remaking ourselves. This principle speaks in a larger sense, not only to our always striving to make our own community constantly better and more beautiful and beneficial, but the whole world, because we don't live in isolation. We are surrounded. And we're not just Watu human beings, we're also Walimwengu world beings. And we must think like this. So this Kwanzaa, as always, we put forth the possibility again of repairing the world, making it more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited. This we do in the spirit of the ancient African concept of Suruj Ta. I repeat, remaking the world in the process of remaking ourselves. But inherent in this concept is a call to heal ourselves and each other as well as the world. We have been wounded, but we must see ourselves as injured physicians, not simply victims, but injured physicians who have it within themselves to heal themselves, to repair themselves, to renew themselves, and remake themselves in the process and practice of repairing, renewing, and remaking the world. This is the real meaning of reparations, right? It's not simply about receiving monies, although that's key, but it's also about the larger struggle to achieve justice for people, accountability from the oppressor, and to pursue liberation and the radical repairing we do to ourselves, society, and the world that would change our lives and change the world for future generations. Now, the concept of Suruj Ta is rooted in the ethical teaching of our ancestors that we constantly injure ourselves. As the messenger used to say, Messenger Elijah Muhammad, and also Haji Malcolm X following that. Sometimes we're greatly unjust to ourselves. Zumal Nafs is the Arabic for that we injure ourselves. We're unjust to ourselves. We're unjust to each other sometimes. And sometimes we're unjust to the world as a whole. Not only by what we do wrong, Black people, but also by what we fail to do right. When we turn a blind eye to injustice, right? Or deaf ear to truth, or cold heart towards suffering in the world, we do damage to ourselves and each other. It's what Nana, Dr. Martin Luther King talked about, a betrayal of silence, when silence and inaction, right, becomes a betrayal, not only of the people suffering, but also a betrayal of ourselves, the best of what it means to be African and human in the world. And the Odu Ifa teaches us, we live in a world and web, I repeat, of interdependence. And therefore, anyone who does good does it for themselves, and anyone who does evil does it to themselves, right? So keep in mind that there's a reciprocity here. If you do good for others, Lady Tasset says in Hosea, you could do good for the world. That the good we do for others, we're also doing for ourselves, for we are building the good world, the moral community we all want and deserve to live in. We do damage to the world, ourselves, and each other in varied ways. We do damage when we fail to follow the best of our ethical and spiritual teachings, as we said in the Million Man March Day of Absent Mission Statement. When we fail to use the best of our ethical teachings, we might also use religion to disrespect and impose on others. That's wrong. We do damage to the world when we try to justify unjust war or remain silent when you see slaughter going on in the world as today. We do damage to the world when we seize and occupy others' lands or let other people do it without us opposing it. And when we claim our special religious and racial status above and beyond all other people in the world, that's damage to the world. We do damage when we turn a blind eye, as I said, to injustice, a deaf ear to truth, and an uncaring heart away from the suffering and pain around us and throughout the world. And we do damage when we make material gain the measure of all things, when we pollute and plunder and deplete and destroy the environment and undermine the basis for human life and all life on earth. And when we act in ways that dim and diminish the future for coming generations. So we must not do damage to the world for its damage to ourselves. Our ancestors in ancient Egypt in the Nile Valley taught that, quote, we must think of eternity and plan for the future for those who will come after us. We must leave them a legacy of good indeed. An ancient teacher in the Hosea said, I did good for my community. I spoke truth there. I did justice there, right? For I knew the value of doing good. It will be a storehouse of good for those who come after us. And Pharaoh Hatshepsut says, I added to what was formerly done, for I wanted it to be said by those who came afterwards. How beautiful is this which happened because of her. Let us be able to say in this Nia, making the world more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited, that I did this beautiful thing so that people would be able to not only benefit from it, but emulate it, recognizing and saying, how beautiful is this which happened because of her, or him, or all of us. Hotep, Ashe, Hetty.
You all heard that? We are injured physicians. Dr. Karenga saying this to us is very important to understand. And creativity, we, as the first people on the earth, were creators. The first to define language and the first even to define spirituality and humankind's relationship with God and a higher power. We are creators, so creativity is within us. We've been beaten down and led to believe we are not creators, but in fact, we are. And again, these concepts are seemingly in places we've heard in one place, but they don't originate in that place. In the Gospel of Luke, it says, physician, heal thyself. Well, that, what Dr. Karenga is explaining to us, that is predated by the concept of the injured physician. Where does it come from in Luke? So we must understand these concepts, folks, and teach ourselves. And by teaching ourselves, we also heal ourselves, all right? Official Kwanzaa website.org, Maulana Karenga.org, SankoriPress.com for all of his titles, and they're very important. We want to continue to read. So each year, each Kwanzaa, just one other thing I want to say. We want to leave the world in Kuumba better than we found it. What have we always said as a people? Where did that come from? Before we ever heard of Kwanzaa?
Teach.
What did we say in our beginning sojourn here, in our beginning Ma'afa? What did we say during the Great Migration from the South to Detroit and Chicago? We always said generationally, we wanted to leave our children better off than we were.
Now.
That's right. So how did we know that? How do we know to say that? It is in our DNA to process and to think that way. And so what Dr. Karenga has done with Kwanzaa is restore us to our greater glory. So we must begin to think that way even more so. Let's leave the world better than we found it. The world, not just ourselves, but the world. We're not minimized. We just ate our neighborhood. We must take care of our neighborhood, but we must also have a global. Malcolm said, think globally and act locally. And a lot of times we're defined by some small thing, but we are a world people, as he has said to us. Official Kwanzaa website.org. Folks, once again, as we greet one another today, Habari Gani, the answer, the response is Kuumba. Tomorrow, Imani, join us once again with Dr. Karenga.